Hello everyone, Brian with the NC Protection Group here. Today I want to cover your first and foremost topic in being an armed security officer, and that is your duty belt that you wear every day at your job site. So first and foremost, when it comes to these duty belts, there are many different sizes, styles, shapes, materials, everything under the sun. I unfortunately cannot cover every single duty belt there is out there, but what I will do is I will give you the most common type as well as the second most common type, along with company issued and personally owned belts, and how they can be the same and different. So, the first most important step when it comes to a duty belt is to size it to you properly. The duty belt should hug your hips and your waist very snugly. So, again, very first step, make the duty belt sized to you, right? You do not want the duty belt too loose. You also do not want the duty belt too tight. You could be wearing this belt for 8, 10, 12 hours, if not more at a time. You want this to be an extension of your body. So let's talk about how we set that up along with the belt itself and all the attachments that go along with it. So the first step is the belt itself, right? So this is generally your most common issued belt to most companies. This is just a nylon style outer belt. This particular one has loop on the inside to attach to an inner belt. Unfortunately, that is the opposite of industry standard. So it's important that if you do have a belt that connects into an inner belt, to look at the attachment system. Most belts have hook on the outer belt and loop on the inner belt, but there is a few companies that go through and they flop that to where it is loop on the outer belt and hook on the inner belt. So understand what you have and what you need to connect it. So again, we talked about the belt itself, just a simple piece of nylon with a little bit of padding wraps around your body. We talked about sizing it to us properly. It wants to be snug to our hips and our waist, along with tight enough to hold all the gear without it shifting, but also loose enough to where it doesn't pinch and hurt us all day long at work. The first thing we'll look at when it comes to the belt is the buckle itself. You want to have some sort of buckle that has a locking mechanism, whether that be a Cobra buckle, a simple push button style buckle, or anything that is just has some sort of locking device to keep the prongs from being hit, released, and then your belt coming off. This particular one has a push button style, so you push the button in and that releases the mechanism, and then you can pull the prongs and take off your belt. The Cobra style buckle, we'll talk about it in a second on the second most popular type of belt, but it is just simply two prongs that you pull and it allows the belt to be taken off. So we've covered the belt, the buckle type. The next thing is the most important part is how do you attach it to your inner belt? Most of these duty belts are not meant to go through your pants belts, right? They can fit through your pants belts, especially on more tactical pants or more of that orientation of pants. Most of those have 2.5-inch wide belt loops that can fit any duty belt through it. But for the most part, for officer convenience, it is easiest in an outer belt configuration. So you have an inner belt that you fit through your pants, right? Just like you would a belt you would wear every single day. And then the outer belt clips on over top of it. The best way for this is what we have with belt keepers. So these are belt keepers right here. They simply go behind the inner belt. Let's see if I can get a good one here. So don't know how well it comes across on camera, but you can see that it attaches behind my inner belt, around my outer belt, and then it has two button snaps that clip on over. These belt keepers allow your outer belt to be situated with your inner belt so that way your outer belt cannot move. We have all seen the pictures of the guy's duty belt that's up here basically around his chest. All right, belt keepers stop this. So when we talk about belt keepers, placement is also important, right? So generally belt keepers come in a pack of 4. 4 is the minimum that I would say that you need for attaching an outer belt to an inner belt. Now, the smaller your waist is around, the less you may need. The bigger your waist, the more you may need. The more gear you carry, the more belt keepers you need, right? So attaching this outer belt to your inner belt also provides stability for all the equipment we must carry on a daily basis. So when it comes to placement, generally the first two that you would put would be on the front side and the back side of your firearm, okay? This will allow it. In my case, I'm running a Safari Land, and it is actually attached to my inner belt. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But if this were attached to my outer belt, like a lot of people have it, then what these two belt keepers do, along with providing stability on the heaviest part of your duty belt, which is your firearm, it also prevents any forward or back motion of the gun. So that way it stays in the exact same spot every single time. So that way your presentation is perfect every single time. So again, your first two, front and back of your holster, right? Directly in front. Your third one, generally most people place it on the left side, right behind or in front of their magazine pouch. Again, this is generally, with exceptions, the second heaviest part of your duty belt, right? So you want to have that be super stable and super locked in so that way it doesn't move forward or back. This also provides cross points because generally your magazines are on the opposite hip of your firearm. So it kind of everything together and keep this belt super stable. Bonus points, you can also hook belt keepers into the front to kind of stack in and provide a solid attachment point up front if you have gear that must go center line of your body. So the final belt keeper we will talk about is the one placed in the dead center. Okay, this one right here is not here to keep any gear from moving around, although it can if you have handcuffs or a flashlight or something towards the rear of your back. It can keep it from shifting around, but the more important thing is it locks it together. Generally, the rear of your belt is where whenever you sit down and stand up and do this repeatedly, it tends to shift up. And especially if you have it locked on the sides, the whole belt will shift in this direction. It generally makes it a whole lot more uncomfortable. It's not very stable. Just doesn't give you a very comfortable and solid platform to be working all day in. So generally, remember 4 belt keepers. It usually comes 4 to a pack. This is the minimum. This is where you build off of. Front and back of the firearm, opposite side of the firearm, one dead center of the back. This has hooked my outer duty belt to my inner belt, and now everything is rock solid and connected through my pants loops and gives me a point of anchor so that way the belt cannot move up and down and look sloppy. Okay. After we talk about belt keepers, right, the next thing will be your firearm. There is many different holsters out there. There's many different firearms out there. There is so many out there. I cannot cover them all, unfortunately, but I will give you this one based off of the way I set mine up. So I set mine up on my inner belt, mainly whenever we talk about the neck style with the 2-piece belt. But I like this because it allows me to take my duty belt off, still having my firearm with me. Now, I can achieve this because I'm running a Safariland low ride UBL. This pushes the firearm down in a drop leg configuration, if you want to call it that, so the belt can go over top of the attachment system and have a smooth, seamless transition. If you have the firearm mounted directly to your outer belt, this generally is more stable, and most holsters require it to be mounted on the outer belt because it is not a drop platform. So therefore, the belt cannot go across the attachment system without causing problems. So most firearms are set up on their belt. When we talk about this, if you are right-handed, you want the firearm on your right side. If you are left-handed, you want it on your left side. I do not advocate for cross-draw carry. There are very few exceptions to that, but it allows a place for somebody else to steal your firearm. It is so much easier. We can talk about that in a later video. If you have any questions on that, comment below, and I will make you a video on that specifically, and we'll talk about the do's and don'ts and carry positions along with that. But this firearm is the most important piece of your gear. This is the thing that you want to be able to get to, and you want nobody else to be able to get to. So you want this to be rock solid and stable where you put it. You don't want this shifting around, shifting front, shifting back, floppy. Again, this is also the heaviest piece of equipment. So if it is super sloppy and not very supported, it's going to cause you to have back pain all day long, and it is terrible. So we've talked about the firearm. Now moving back over here. So we have our spare mag carrier. Now, these can be open top like these in the Kydex configuration. They can be closed flap in a nylon. You can have leather with basket weave or gloss leather. And this goes for all pouches and belts out there. So don't get too hung up on what this one looks like on my belt. Just understand that this is here for demonstration purposes. Always follow your company policies for what is approved color-wise and pattern-wise. So when we come over here to our spare mag carrier, generally most people are going to run them on the opposite hip, basically directly parallel to their firearm. This allows comfortability because it's off to the side. You can bend over, you can stoop, you can walk, you can run without anything jabbing you in the stomach. So generally off to the left-hand side, and this is generally the piece of equipment that is front and center, right? And when we talk about front and center, I don't necessarily mean front and center of your belt. What I mean by that is it is the forward-most pouch on your belt, right? You don't have anything else generally in front of this, maybe something small, key ring, glove holder, something along that nature. But this is generally the furthest forward pouch you have on your hip because it allows you to get to them quick and easy. After that, I have a OC pouch in just a standard nylon with the little flap top up here. OC, allow it, some places don't. Again, always check with your company and client policies when it comes to what you carry and how you carry it. But in this case, I have my OC spray right here, and split between it is the belt keeper to attach everything and to keep everything from moving around. Lastly, I have a pair of handcuffs here. This is, instead of a Velcro attachment system, this one has a button snap to keep everything together. Again, closed flat pouch, nice solid nylon. It's not going to go anywhere. I can still take it, get to my cuffs if need be, and it's good to go. When it comes to placement of all your pouches, remember, personal preference is key here, okay? Set it up how you need it, okay? Always for guidelines, talk to people who've carried a duty belt for a long time. But if you talk to 10 different people, you'll get 10 different setups on a duty belt, okay? Orient your pouches that best work for you. Some people like their cuffs towards the back. Some people like them front and center. Some people like them on their strong hand side, weak hand side. Whatever is comfortable for you, orientate your pouches so that way you can get to your gear generally with either hand in many different positions, okay? So pretty much sums up the standard nylon duty belt. All right, let's dive into the second most popular belt there is out there. This is what we call a two-piece belt, right? So it is a dedicated inner belt and outer belt system. A whole lot of names for them: tactical belts, war belts, all kinds of names for them in the world. But generally, this is a two-piece belt. So you have an inner belt. So it's the exact same inner belt I was wearing. This one is a Tegris inner belt. We'll talk about that later when it comes to inner belt talks. But it is an inner belt with loop Velcro that is lining it, and a hook-lined outer belt. So this is Velcro. Essentially, Velcro is a name brand. Hook and loop is kind of the generic name, kind of like some tissue paper. But this is a hook-lined inner belt, loop-lined outer belt, and they simply Velcro together to provide a solid and dependable platform for you to mount your gear and equipment on. Now, generally with these belt setups, we ditch the belt keepers. So the reason we ditch the belt keepers is because they are slower to put on. They up over time. So they're just a pain and a hassle to put on. And taking it off is generally a whole lot quicker than it is putting it on. So with these two-piece belts, you can simply unhook it, take the whole belt off, set it where you need to, set it in your vehicle on the drive to work. You can set it up in the locker room. You can hang it up at your house, whatever. And now all you have to do to put it on is simply line up where you want to line up. Make sure that all the fields of Velcro line up together. Set it where you want it and clip it in, and you're done. This is a much quicker don and doff than the standard belt keepered style duty belt. So we'll get into this. Again, there is many of these belts. This one happens to be black with a little moly webbing on there. You can get plain. You can get the nylon belts that look just like the last one we were talking about, but it has the traditional hook and loop on the inside to make it the easier attachment. So now let's talk about the belt. Same thing, right? The same setup goes into this belt, the same pouch placement. You can take any of the pouches off the other belt, put them onto this belt, and they will work the exact same for the most part. So won't dive too deep into the belt itself. Just understand that these are becoming more and more popular every day just because it's easier to put it on and take it off. Now, we talked about Cobra buckles in the buckle section of the last, this video. For these two little gold ears, simply push them together and the belt comes off. Having some sort of locking buckle is huge. So when it comes to pouches, this is my personal belt. This has been a belt that I've had for a long time now, and it's kind of up for my personal use. So I use this as a competition belt, a duty belt, a demonstration belt, a little bit of everything belt. So This is my personal configuration for it. Again, don't take this as gospel. Do your own research, set up the belt your way. But at the end of the day, this is how I set up my belt. So if you want to take inspiration from it, please do. So the first thing that you'll notice is my holster is in the exact same spot. I'm a big proponent of not changing your stuff around when it comes to your firearm. Once you find the position you like, keep it that way. Okay? We talked about the fact that I have my firearm on my inner belt. So it is hooked into my inner pants belt, and this belt hooks around the UBL here. It just hooks around there and clips back in. This came from the days of going to the range first thing in the morning. What I would do is I would run my firearm on a belt like this, take my outer belt, throw it in the truck, and then whenever we went out to get something to eat or something, I always had my firearm on me, but I didn't have to lug around a whole belt. You do sacrifice some stability going with this setup because you are relying on a much thinner inner belt as opposed to the much stiffer and stronger outer belt, but it is a downside that I take for convenience out of me. So when it comes to this, next thing we'll move back over to is the magazine pouches. I'm running 2 canted magazine pouches on mine. These are, again, kind of competition style. They're seated like this because this is a more natural position to draw the magazine in. It also makes it more easier to bend over, right? So we talked about having the magazine pouches all the way over here on your hip for the same reason. For this just keeps them center line. It's easy for me. I run 1 pistol mag, and then I run a multi-tool in the other one. The reason I do that, multi-tools have pliers, screwdrivers, a small knife, usually some sort of scissors, right? I use that stuff every single day, so I made a home for it on my kit here. I can very simply take this out, pop another magazine in there if need be. Behind that is my OC sprayer. So all of this is black Kydex, and for this one, it is open top OC. It simply takes and slides in there, and I'm good to go. Again, always resort back to your company and client policies on what you need if they must be a covered magazine pouch or an open top magazine pouch. So OC spray. Back here I have a flashlight carrier, right? For this one, this is more of like a line full handheld light. So I have it in a carrier here. Pocket space is very, very when it comes to wearing a duty belt. Generally, these front 2 pockets, these front slash pockets of your jeans or pants, aren't very usable, right? You've got stuff in the way. It's just hard to get in and out of there. A lot of times your back pockets can kind of get obscured as well, just due to whatever you have back here. So understand that your pocket space does become limited. So I tend to put the stuff on my belt as opposed to in my pocket. Now, if I'm doing cargo pants, I keep the stuff down here in my cargo pocket and I'm good to go. So flashlight on the belt if I'm running a full-size flashlight. You can also carry a small backup light or an admin light or just your general flashlight. You can always clip it into your pocket, whether that be the top slash pocket or a cargo pocket or whatever. And lastly, in the exact same place, I've got my open top handcuff pouch, right? Again, I prefer it on my left side. That is just my personal preference. And then back to this side, we have a glove pouch just to hold some nitrile gloves in there. I don't like touching people's bodily fluids without something covering my hands. The biggest, most important thing I'll say when it comes to a duty belt is keep this area where your spine is clear, or with some sort of small pouch like this glove pouch, because if you fall and land on it, there's been many law enforcement officers that have spinal cord injuries. Handcuffs are very popular to keep right there center line of your back. You take a tumble, you hit a hard fall on your back, you can have spine problems for a very long time, if not the rest of your life. So please keep the middle part of your back clear. It also helps with sitting down, right? Some people run medical pouches back there. I like that whenever I'm sitting down for a long period of time because it gives me a little bit of lumbar support. But again, keep your belt set up whatever works for you that also falls within your company policy. Remember, there's a company policy for a reason, okay? That is set up as a way to make sure everybody looks uniform as well as professional, okay? Everybody should look the same. You can always dial it up, dial it down to whatever you need. In a future video, we'll talk about plussing up this kit, adding tasers, batons. We will add that in a future video on how to add all of this extra stuff to your kit, and possibly along with a soft armor or vest carrier or some sort of chest mounted solution for carrying additional equipment. So If you have any questions, please leave a comment below. I'll answer them. If you have any ideas for future videos, please let me know and I'll be happy to hear them. See you next time.